All right, y'all, we are back again for another episode of Bankroll Blitz. This time we are joined by Justin Bales. Make sure you check out www.buylowsports.com. That's BUY. And Josh Lander joining us as always. Guys, thank you for joining. I'm just going to go right into it. I don't want to ask any questions. I just want to get right into the bets. And I'm going to kick it to you first, Josh, to start off with the good luck here.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple sides, and I'll talk about one of them in a minute, but I just got to go to my favorite prop with TJ Hawkinson and have him over 52.5 yards receiving. Touchdown's still pretty worth it, too. I believe you can still get about plus 185 or so. Yeah, it opened a bit higher and dropped down a bit because Nick Mullins is somewhat of a gunslinger. So what you've got coming in for Josh Dobbs, who obviously turned into a pumpkin, and if you were watching the way that the sort of backyard football that he was playing in the games where he looked successful and got some TDs with his legs and made some really nice highlights, like that was all obviously going to come to an end at some point. But that doesn't mean that a guy who comes in that actually is a lot more familiar with the offense than Dobbs was, because he's been the backup for a while. He's come in and played a number of snaps for them after really never started, but came in and filled in for a couple guys like he did for Dobbs in this last game where he went 9 for 13. He will be running for his life at times. I do think that. I don't actually hate like an anytime touchdown for him. It was 12-1 on Caesars. That probably dipped a bit because the rest of the market was at like 8-1, maybe 6-1. But even at like 8-1 or so, I still think Ty Chandler's your main running back. If you do get close to the goal line, I would rather have Mullins rushing it in. But either way, Hawkinson is going to just continue to get targets no matter. Like, he's just been this constant of all of this wave of inconstant for this team all season long. And when they were still somewhat of a competent offense, he was up in the double-digit targets every game. And then he had a bit of an injury, finally got back to up to 91.5% in his snap share last week. So he's good to go. And like on the field, he'll be out there for them consistently. Quarterback like Nick Mullins is going to lean on such an easy target like Hawkinson, one of the top, I'll call him a top 3 tight end this season at this point, especially for fantasy football purposes. So yeah, I'm going to go with the 52.5 yards. I think it's too low, and there's too much over accounting for what Minnesota has been, especially putting up 3 points last week.
Yeah, I like that. What's funny, you said it, it's the number one line that we've seen so far this season is TJ Hawkinson has been that constant, regardless of what quarterback you've thrown in there. But man, can we take a second to pour one out for Josh Dobbs, now third on the depth chart? At one time, he looked like the best trade of the season, and now he's sitting third on the depth chart. It's funny, I saw someone saying, like, how many wasted second round and third round picks did they waste on Dobbs? But whatever. It's in the NFL, it's all about getting the job done. And the second you can't get the job done, especially as a backup or someone who's coming in as an emergency starter, you lose your spot there. So let me go into my first one. And statistically, this one's going to sound kind of crazy, right? I'm going with Miami Dolphins over 1.5 made field goals. Price right now is minus 125. Dolphins are second worst in made field goals per game at 1.1. Brad, why are you taking this? Well, for those who watch the show and know, I'm a sicko when it comes to teams playing against the Jets. The Jets allow the second most field goals per game. But why is that? We need to ask. Well, if you think about the Jets defense, they have really good defense, but oftentimes their offense finds them making their defense play in shorter fields. So when they cross the 50, teams cross the 50 on them, they have to really hunker down. They have a really good touchdown to field goal ratio in the red zone, which means teams are more likely to score a field goal as opposed to a touchdown. And then on the Dolphins, why I think this line is good for Dolphins, Tyreek Hill. He's the number one reason why. Dolphins struggled last week to finish drives when he got hobbled. If he's not 100%, they're going to struggle to finish drives, especially against a much more difficult and more challenging defense there. So over 1.5 made field goals. I actually had his number at 3. And yes, I'm going to be a sicko and going to play over 2.5 field goals as well. It's like plus 250.
The field goal ladder.
It's good. Yeah, they're going to be like, why is Brad a sicko laddering field goals? But I'm absolutely going to do it.
That's sharp, though. I like that, especially because you get such good odds because the Dolphins don't kick field goals. They just don't kick them ever. They, one, finish drives, but two, they go for them fourth so often, too. But, no, I like it. I like that play.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's too, like, I took Younghoe Koo last week over 1.5 field goals, and I try to be pretty selective on my field goals. Him missing 2 field goals in the same game was absolutely disgusting. I thought we were going to cash it first half when he had that walk-off, and I was like, oh, yeah, we're good. No, and then he misses. But this one I actually like. I like a little bit more, especially based on the price. Bales, go ahead and give us your first play.
So I do want to preface this by saying I'm a Green Bay fan. For anyone that hasn't watched, I am a Green Bay fan. Maybe this is a little bit of homerism. I don't actually think it is. I think there's plenty to like about it. But Green Bay -3.5 is currently down to -105 on FanDuel. I think it's just too good of a number. First, they're just better at home. They're 4-2 against the spread at home. It's very difficult in December to go up to Green Bay to play, especially the way that Tampa Bay wants to play. They're going to throw the ball. You kind of need to grind it out, run. I also believe that the loss to the Giants was Matt LaFleur's first ever loss in December, which is insane, especially because really, I don't know, not really Matt LaFleur's loss. That was more defense, just a weird way of playing back when New York only needed a field goal. But personally, I'm expecting Aaron Jones to come back. He's been limited in practice. We now have A.J. Dillon with the broken thumb. So I think really, I think that they could have pushed Aaron Jones on Monday. I think that they didn't because they thought they were likely just going to win that game outright. And you need Aaron Jones down for this stretch to make the playoffs versus, kind of just one game against the Giants where you try to pick up the W. It is a must-win game, essentially, for Green Bay. It's more or less must-win for Tampa Bay as well. Both are coming in with that mindset. I just do think that there's an obvious edge for a home team, especially someone like Green Bay. And then the other aspect is that Green Bay essentially gives up yards on the ground. They don't really struggle that much against the pass. I know Tommy DeVito did very well. DeVito's probably better than, the whole we kind of laugh at it because no one expected him to be good. It's the Josh Dobbs thing again. And really, those kind of players can do well for weeks. They're probably not franchise quarterbacks, but they can do well for a few weeks. And on the other end, you kind of want to throw against Tampa. I believe they're giving up the most passing yards in the NFL per game, which obviously was the Chargers for the longest time. Tampa Bay has now passed them. I want to rely on Jordan Love. Since he was drafted, I was a Jordan Love truther. I thought that if you give someone that talented years behind someone as smart as Aaron Rodgers, they obviously will just develop into something good. I thought he was super inconsistent early in the season. I still think you see the flashes. He's more consistent now. I wouldn't say he's ready to, take him to a Super Bowl this year or anything, but I do think that the playoffs are very reasonable. And I think that Green Bay, just the stylistic matchup of this game is extremely good for them, especially playing at home.
As a Tampa Bay guy, I'm going to say I'm kind of on board with that there. Let me ask you this. I don't know if you've checked this number out. I was going to play Rachaad White over 19.5 receiving yards. Did you have any yes, no, maybe, or get that out of my face?
Yeah, I think that's fine just because, one, they target Rachaad White so much that it's kind of a low number. Green Bay doesn't really give up a ton of receiving yards to running backs, but at the same time, I think that you can kind of play it as an extension of the run if you want to. And since Rachaad White is, I don't know, he's kind of busted in terms of actually running the ball.
Yes.
I think that getting it to him in space is by far the best way to do it. So, yeah, I mean, the matchup's good on the ground, but I think that it's much sharper for them to take advantage of it by, elongating that, throwing them the ball. And the receiving yards make more sense there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's funny is his rushing numbers are 75.5 now. This was a guy who was at 50 and 45 throughout the season. So I'm glad I get your little stamp of approval, or at least a stamp of it's not terrible. Josh, go ahead.
I was just going to chime in too and be like,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Jordan Love is convincing me consistently, and that Giants game was a bad spot for a road dog like that on that weird double Monday night game. Like I bet the Giants +6.5 when it opened. And by the way, full transparency for me, I'm a Giants fan, but also a realist. So like I can watch football and know what I'm watching. But yeah, it was a good situation. And like Tommy D, who knows? Like, honestly, who does know? I don't think that he'll be around too long, but we'll see what they decide to do with, $1 million man Jones over there. So like either way, the point is more about Jordan Love. You got me on my Giants stuff. The Packers are a team that I do believe in, and the Bucs are a team I like fading on the road in Green Bay. And I will, if Jordan Love could just have any kind of weapons around him, there's a clear correlation between not having anybody and the way he looks when he has Christian Watson on the field, for instance, right? So, big deal. But
I wanted to target a pass catcher for the Packers, but I couldn't do Wicks like I did last week because he had that phantom injury that I didn't even see happen. And then I didn't know the status of Watson, so I ended up passing it. But like, if weather permits and you want to ball out on Jordan Love, like I absolutely think you can, because as the Bucs fan, remember, I'm telling you, like, we cannot cover anything, bro. And if the Bucs, God forbid, if the Bucs are in the game late, that's guaranteed that there's someone catching the ball for 75 yards against them. Guaranteed late in the game.
big play truck yardage. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go into to my first game. It might be a little gross. Feel free to tease it. I'm also just going parlay with these two teams, which is the Bears, which I still love, that I still get a hook at 3.5, and the New York Jets plus 9.5. And the only reason I'm not like, go ahead and tease it is because I don't get to cross multiple numbers with that 3.5 that I really like to.
Yeah.
I only get across the 7 and I'm still below the 10 and whatever you want to do. I do think it's like a decent matchup because if Tyreek is out, like we saw what that meant. And even Tyreek at 80%, if you do know fully, once you realize entirely that he's a decoy, then the veil is lifted and you can go ahead and press up a little bit on those other guys. Jalen Waddle is good in those short yardage, but even after Tyreek left, his ADOT still sucked, which is something that you continue to get frustrated with by him. And it's part of it is obviously the route running. So for that game, you're going to have to run, and maybe they will have some success running on the Jets. But I would also say that if you look at the sets where they're running successfully with Mostert out of the shotgun, right, you still are relying on the pass almost to like set up the run for the Dolphins as they come out firing. And look, Mostert's had an incredible season all around, and I actually wouldn't talk any trash on him specifically. But like I said, the offensive line is also there for the purpose of getting out in space and being a little bit more like faster and smaller. So when it comes to needing to just like bull rush against these Jets defensive linemen who have like the third best adjusted line rate and everything else with pressure that they only need 4, et cetera, like that's going to be a problem. Sauce Gardner, if he and DJ Reed are tasked with just Jalen Waddle and like Berrios, I kind of like the Jets in that matchup. I don't know about you guys, even if it is in Miami. It's not as hot as it normally is when the Jets go down there and seem to suck because they're just standing in the sun.
Yep.
Right, Brad? You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I've sat on the visitor side. Never again.
Exactly. So I'm going to go both those squads. And just real quick, love the Browns. Kevin Stefanski deserves a lot of talk for him in terms of coach of the year at this point. It's just that like you can't continue to just lose dudes dropping at flies on one of the, even if it is the best defense when it's fully healthy. There was a 3 or 4 more losses last week that were pretty brutal for them, right? And so everything that you see for the scary metrics that you would take betting against the Browns, because you're like, well, their defense can win no matter what. Justin Fields gone over 200 yards in 6 of 8 starts this year. I'm somewhat of a Fields truther. I would also really love for him to start for the Bears next year so I can win my bet with Will Hill for $300. But we'll see how that goes. So yeah, either way, I'm taking both those teams in a parlay. Tease is fine by me as well, but I like both those spreads.
Yeah, that's funny. I was actually going to tease both of those games. But I ended up taking a 7-point teaser. And I'll just get into my play because it's kind of segue there. I took a 7-point teaser plus 120. If your book only offers 6.5, it's okay. Like that is fine because you still get through the key numbers. And that first game we're going to talk about Ravens versus Jaguars, getting the +4 here. I just feel like at this point in my in my NFL season, I'm just trying to stack chips, man. Like call me a wuss, call me whatever you want. I think I'm finally got back to being down half a unit after being down big at the beginning of the season. So I'm taking teams that I trust in good defense. Right now, Baltimore Ravens, number 2 defensive DVOA team. That's something that we haven't said in years because they've always banged up, but now they've got a little bit of health. I still haven't been able to see Trevor Lawrence get tested, see how healthy he is, but I do think they do get pressure on the quarterback there. I like the Baltimore Ravens to cover their actual number, but like I said, I'm being a little bit more cautious. The next one, Kansas City Chiefs, -7.5. The line's down to just the win there for the Chiefs at -0.5. And for me, it's a desperation situation for the Kansas City Chiefs. And also, I know we're sick and tired of hearing this narrative, but it's a narrative that we must say. It's Taylor Swift's birthday weekend, guys. You know Travis Kelce is not going to lose on his girl's birthday weekend. He's going to do absolutely in his power. The New England Patriots had a great game last week, right? But I don't think that's repeatable. I don't think that Ezekiel Elliott's going to continue to drink from the fountain of youth and run the ball effectively on 18 plus carries. That's just not happening. The Chiefs have a good defense. That now they don't have to worry about playing a Josh Allen-led Bills team whose offense was gashing them up. This is a little bit better and more comfortable for them. Like I said, I like them to cover their number, but playing a little safe. And last but not least, this one has no real analysis to it. It's just if this team loses, I will drive to Atlanta myself and whip every single player's behind. I'm taking the Falcons +4 against the Panthers. When I watch the Panthers, and you guys know I love Alabama football, so I watch Bryce Young play every single game. And when I watch the game, I try to not be overly critical of the players because, Bryce Young's a rookie and he's going to struggle. They're wide receivers. When I was watching one of the games, they did a comparison of the wide receivers on the Panthers versus the other team's players and how much average separation each wide receiver is getting in comparison. The Panthers was laughable. It's like us three out there going and running routes against the opposing team. The Panthers, if they win this game, in my eyes, it's going to be some crazy walk-off field goal that's going to happen late in the game. And I'm okay with getting the +4 for the Falcons. This is one of those games where the Falcons actually have a chance to win the division while being a sorry team. And from like a statistic standpoint, the Panthers just aren't great defensively outside of their offense being pretty bad. When you have a quarterback who is the second worst quarterback in terms of PFF grade for all qualified quarterbacks against the secondary of the Falcons, if you lose this game, that's enough to be fighting material. So the three legs are Ravens +4, Chiefs -0.5, and Falcons +4 at +120.
Those are really good. I live in Raleigh, so luckily we get to watch every Carolina game. It's honestly, there's so much slander on Bryce Young at this point.
Yeah.
And first off, he's a rookie, so I don't even care if any rookie sucks. But one, he has no one to throw to, and two, he has legit 2.15 seconds average to get rid of the ball. It's disgusting. You can put any quarterback in the NFL behind that Panthers line with those receivers, and maybe some will do better than Bryce Young. They're not doing well though. It's going to be bad.
Yeah,
I like all three of those. You have the narrative of, you have the dumb Taylor Swift narrative, whatever. But the Chiefs obviously losing, Patrick Mahomes going off a little bit after the game last week. Yeah. If they lose this week, they're going to take some serious heat, even more than they're already taking. So I do like that. And Keaton Mitchell, I don't remember if you mentioned him, but man, he adds something
he does.
Dynamic to that offense, right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I was going to play him over rushing and receiving. And of course, last week was our last week doing that. You can't do it. You can't take it anymore.
That's what I was going to say. And I knew that last week because I hit it and I was like, am I being just following this, the trend here? Should I keep hitting Keaton Mitchell overs? And I was like, well, I'm at the craps table. I'm going to keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or I'm at the roulette. I'm going to keep hitting red. Keep hitting. So I got to keep hitting red. But also it was after 2 snaps of that game, I was like, oh, no. I can watch this dude run way faster and better than everyone else and go, this is a real thing. Real quick, I have to apologize for the show bales. I didn't know we were getting Taylor Swift analysis in there. Otherwise, I would have stopped it at the time. So you know that I don't subscribe to that. But it was good. But the other part is all of it. I'm with all of it. The part where were we at here? The Panthers and the Bryce Young. That was where I was like, I don't want to forget this one thing, which is the last thing I would say, because you guys covered all of it, we don't know. There's no point in saying anything. Bryce Young might be good. I think we do know that his ceiling is below the all-time greats, who even as bad as Peyton Manning might have looked his rookie year.
I think he threw 18 interceptions or something.
There were flashes, right? There were moments where you're like, damn, he just stayed in there, hit that throw, didn't get injured somehow, and hit that dude on the out route, and threw the ball 3 seconds before he turned around for it or whatever, right? Peyton Manning stuff that we were like, there's something there. And then you throw in the analysis and all that. Maybe, Young can get up to someone who's more comparable to his stature, like a Drew Brees or somebody like that. And we'll see, because he does need to get out of the pocket, it seems at times, with his size. We don't need to get too far into it. It's really interesting, because we'll see what happens. My last thing would be the fear that he turns into David Carr And it's like he just got ruined after his rookie season by that line, that it was just like he's seeing ghosts or whatever. But either way, yeah, no, I support it. Let's get to your second pick there, Bales.
So I feel like I'm going with something that I don't want to say that there's not that much analysis on it. There's not, but like what there is just like so obvious. And I kind of hate taking these super obvious plays. But I mean, I do love it. So we have Washington and the Los Angeles Rams over 50.5 points. The best odds you can get on it, -110. Several books are offering that right now. I think that it's just relatively obvious. Washington's gone over in 4 consecutive. The Rams have gone over in each of the 3 since Kyron Williams has returned. The big thing is that Washington is going to throw the ball. They love throwing the ball. Los Angeles is a defense that makes you throw it. On the other side, we have the exact same situation where Los Angeles doesn't want to throw the ball as much as Washington does, but Washington's a defense that generally forces you to throw it. And Washington is just going to give up these ridiculous chunk yards. You have guys that run the nuances of the routes so well in Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. You have guys that bring the speed like Tutu Atwell. There's just no way really that I see Washington slowing down the Rams whatsoever. So you kind of have a situation where 50.5 points obviously is a lot, but we could potentially see the Rams put up 40 plus again. And Washington's not this great offense, but Sam Howell can sling it. They can hit big plays. They can score touchdowns, and they're going to be losing pretty early on, I would assume.
Yep.
If they're not, I feel like that might be even better, that Los Angeles is just continuing to throw the ball, because at the end of the game, obviously they're going to run it out a little bit, but I feel like you still kind of throw against Washington a little bit late, even when you're winning big. So I like the over. I think both teams, it's not necessarily the fastest paced game. It's just the fact that they throw so much, the clock's going to be stopped. Yeah. And you get those massive chunk plays that, 3 plays for 20 yards is not the same as 1 play for 20 yards, especially when the next 2 plays are both incompletions and the clock's not running, right?
Yep.
And real quick too, the Rams do play actually pretty fast pace. They should keep it pretty fast. I think they're still in like the top 8. They were much higher until Stafford went out and that dipped their numbers. But since he came back and McVay is not going to take his foot off the pedal, he's never going to stop trying to score points. I don't care how much he's up by, which I respect and all that, and love Sam Howell taking me to fantasy glory even though he's clearly a subpar quarterback. So I'm with all of it.
No, I like that. The only thing I was gonna add was we have to remember, like, literally every time the Commanders play, they allow the big play or the 100-yard receiver. I think there's a legitimate chance that both Nacua and Kupp hit that 80 mark, and one of them going over the 100 in this game.
Easy, yeah, I'm with that. Yeah. All right, I'm on my third pick, aren't I?
Yes, sir.
So I had a couple because I wanted to throw this out. So let me just make sure I say I think Chuba Hubbard's a good over bet for his rushing yards. They just keep giving him the ball, even if they're down by 20 points. So like I took him for over like 10.5 rush attempts. I do like that. I think it's up to 14.5. I liked it at 13.5. And for some reason, once I'm like, you have to get 15, it scares me. But if you look at his past couple of weeks, that's what they're doing. He's went up from like every week, it just keeps going up. Miles Sanders is sort of the old regime's running back at this point, and I think that's pretty clear. And Chuba's, the new regime's guy. So now he was up to almost 80% last week, and still got 25, which is crazy. 25 rushing attempts and then 23 rushing attempts back to back.
Yes,
only pulled 87 yards a couple of weeks ago on the 23 attempts. And it's still just like, well, if you're just going to keep feeding it to him, man, like I said, it was 3 weeks ago. It was like 10.5 or 12.5 for his rushing attempts. And then he just flies by it in the first half, even though they're down by 3 scores. I think we know what they're going to do.
Yes.
To protect Bryce Young to a degree, it's like, good. Don't just, because you're down 3 scores doesn't mean that he now needs to throw 45 times a game and you run the risk of actually David Carring him and getting him run over, right? So I think you just keep going to Chuba. I keep bringing up fantasy, but I'm going to keep starting him, even if it's not a good matchup. And like, I hope I get another 64 yards from him this week.
Bro, I love that you said that because your boy is in the fantasy playoffs, and I went 0 running back. And when you go 0 running back and then all your running backs get hurt, things are a little tough. And I grabbed Chuba and I've just been starting them. And I'm like, just keep giving me those 15, 20 points. I don't know how you do it. Score a touchdown. This is a good week for him. I'm glad that you said that. You have anything to add to that Hubbard love there?
I just think, volume's king. Everyone talks so much about talent, and talent's good for real football. Wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Volume's king in betting. Volume's king in fantasy. It's like Sam Howell's not a great quarterback. Guess what? They're going to throw the ball 45 times. Sam Howell's going to put up numbers. Same with Chua Hubbard. Not a great running back, but you give him the ball 25 times, and it's pretty easy for any NFL starter or even borderline starter to beat, 63.5 yards. That's such a low total for what you're doing. So no, I really like that play.
Yeah, let me go with my pick. I'm going to go with, I talked about this off air, Sam Laporta. Numbers up to 47.5 receiving yards. I'm taking the over. I locked it in at 46.5. I put it on the Gold Boys show at 46.5. It is what it is at that number. I don't think 1 yard for me gets out of that 12% range that we talk about all the time. But let's talk about the Denver Broncos here, a team who I also bet to make the playoffs at plus 550. And then I told people they can bet them again at plus 300. Man, they're inching closer. They might win the division if they keep playing this way. They're almost even money to make the playoffs. It sounds crazy, but I'm actually fading them a little bit. And I'm fading them because the Denver Broncos passing attack, their defense is still like bottom 5 in defensive DVOA, but what makes it even better is their defense is the defense is the second worst in defensive DVOA to the second option or wide receiver 2. And the second option, wide receiver 2 on this team for the Lions is Sam Laporta. And want to make this even better for the Broncos give up the most yards to the tight end position. 3, the trifecta, which makes me really love it. The Lions are another team who are in prime position for a bounce back spot. But the reason why this happens so much with the Broncos and why the statistics, and when we look at these DVOA numbers, like kind of just crap on them so much, is because how effective Patrick Surtain has been. So Patrick Surtain literally almost eliminates one player, and someone just dropped an Amon-Ra St. Brown play as we're doing this. It came across my screen. That's pretty funny. One of the Twitter handicappers. But what he does, he effectively takes away one player when they're lined up in man, which leaves that second option, leaves whoever's covering that second option kind of like on that island because they're just going to get targeted so much. Sam Laporta is fun. If you want to bet on him too, I suggest you take him to score a touchdown. I suggest you take him you ladder him up because he's one of those guys outside of that one game I think he had where at 47. Normally when he hits his over, he smashes his over. And I think he's poised for a big game. Well, I thought it was funny about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think Amon-Ra is at a good number 2 to take his over at 86.5. I just personally not going to take it just because he's just such a great zone beater. So anytime they're in zone, I think he's a viable option. So that's mine. I'm on Laporta. I like him this week. I don't normally take tight end receiving overs often, but with the Lions being at home in Ford Field, they're going to be absolutely rocking. They need a bounce back game here. This is a great spot.
I actually, funny enough, I take a lot of tight end overs.
One
that I've been on for like the last few weeks is Tyler Conklin. They keep setting it
at
24.5. He just keeps getting like 6 to 8 targets. But no, I think this goes with the TJ Hawkinson play. The Broncos and Bengals are the 2 worst teams in the NFL against tight ends.
Yeah, we can say that.
And you're not taking like, what's the best way to put it? Like you're not taking Adam Troutman. You're not taking like an inline nose is going to get the defenders, run blocking tight end. You're taking a receiver. Let's be real. Sam Laporta, TJ Hawkinson, they're both receivers. I really like them. I like both of them. And I think that you can actually alt both of them and go up. I feel like that's a really good spot for both. But at the original lines, those are really good plays.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, Laporta I've sort of had luck with him in the sense that he has those random goose egg weeks or close to it, right? But he's coming off one. So I don't expect necessarily 2 in a row. And he did have that massive one, but it does come down to the matchup as well. I didn't even mention that in the Hawkinson stuff was that the Bengals give up the most yards. Pretty helpful stat there. So I'm with all of it though.
All right, Bales, lay out your third play, man.
All right, I'm going another high over. I know.
Right.
This isn't normally what I do, but man, it looks good. Dallas Buffalo over 50.5. Again, you have minus 110. I do want to say this one feels slightly riskier just because it's being played in Buffalo and weather pops up. And when weather hits Buffalo, weather hits Buffalo. It's really difficult. But if it stays clear, you have 2 of the highest upside offenses, I would say, in the NFL. Dallas has looked virtually unstoppable. Buffalo now with Joe Brady as their offensive coordinator, he's calling plays. They're running a bit faster, not that much. They have found more success. I think the big thing is that they're using Josh Allen as a rusher much more than they were before. And that kind of just opens up the entire offense because you need to worry about him. The other thing is that Dallas really isn't great against running quarterbacks. They do give up yards to quarterbacks on the ground. So if Josh Allen can get his legs going, which also as kind of like a little side bet here, Josh Allen over his rushing yards. I'm not 100% sure what it's set at, but I would be interested to take a look at that. But if he can get his legs going, obviously they're featuring James Cook more. He's just absurdly versatile.
Yes.
We saw him catch a 20, 25-yard touchdown essentially in the air last week. So it just adds so much more versatility. You're not strictly relying on Stephon Diggs to do everything.
Yeah.
Then on the other side, I mean, do you guys honestly believe there's a team in the entire NFL that is going to stop Dallas's offense?
No.
All right, now.
No,
the
49ers
feel like the closest option. And even that, I'm like, I still feel like Dallas is going to throw up some points on them.
If they're at home, especially.
Mm-hmm. The road part, I don't love.
Right.
Especially, obviously, Buffalo. Like, there's just certain stadiums that are so good for home teams. Especially a team like Dallas, where they're coming from, ton of heat. They're not used to the cold. But I still feel like it's a fine spot for that because they're so good, more or less at throwing the ball. Tony Pollard hasn't really been what we want him to be this year. But even that, there's still upside there. And similar to Washington, LA, like if both teams continue to throw the ball the way that we want them to, it just slows the clock down a bit. And, we can have those big scoring games like we've seen.
Yeah, Dallas is maximizing the most out of their pass catchers, too, with CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and even Ferguson playing pretty fantastic there.
Yeah.
I need a CeeDee Lamb 150, 2 touchdowns, and Ferguson 50 and a touchdown.
That's what I was going to literally ask is what do you guys think about both specifically those two dudes as who I was thinking of? What do you think of their props?
From a betting perspective, listen, I feel like I was the king of betting on CeeDee Lamb at the beginning of the season. And then we just saw his number go insane. And
crazy.
I stopped betting it. And it wasn't because it was bad. I just was so high. And then everyone, you even know this, in our group chats, people are getting pissed that CeeDee's not hitting his overs. But I mean, when you set a dude at 92 yards, you can't get mad when he's not hitting the over. That's a ton of yards in the NFL.
Ferguson's the touchdown.
Yes, he is.
Ferguson is just a machine in the red zone. They keep going to him. He also is it feels kind of weird because it's kind of narrative based, but he feels like one of those psychotic tight ends.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's
100%.
the enforcer.
He's the enforcer. That's the word I was going to. I mean, every scrum, I'm like, oh, this dude wants all of the smoke all of the time.
All the time.
Dude, when you're 6'7", 255, it makes it a little easier to want the smoke that consistently.
That's gonna be like when Cade Stover goes to the NFL from Ohio State. He's gonna be the same way.
Trent Williams is the same way on the Niners. He always wants it, but he's even bigger than Ferg. Yeah,
certain guys are all about it, and Ferguson is one of them.
Ferguson is definitely. Let's get into the touchdown scores. Let's build a little parlay. So as always, if we hit this, we're going to donate the money to whoever likes and retweets our Twitter post. I start mine off with Sam Laporta. So go ahead and give me yours, Josh. I'm going to build this out.
Did we hit? I just got to call us out on air. Did we hit the other one when it was AJ Brown? I know I hit Laporta.
No, we missed one leg. It was my leg that missed.
Oh, AJ Brown didn't score?
No, he got tackled at the 1.
What a bum.
Dude, it was so annoying, bro. And he got tackled at the 1, and then he missed the one on the right-hand side of the end zone. And I was just like yesterday, just like Thursday Night Football when I had Michael Mayer to score the first touchdown. Same BS.
Same thing, yeah. Damn, that's tough.
I know. That was such a good one.
I know. I loved that one. I want to give out the right number for David Montgomery, but that's where I'm going in this one.
I think I saw 139, and I'm going to shop this line around. I just want to give a rough estimate.
Oh, I guess whatever line I gave out wouldn't matter because we have to make sure it's on the book that you're going with. But either way, I think he's good because you should get plus money. Another, I mean, I would call it at least decent matchup, but it's once again volume, right? And he's just going to continue to clear this stuff in home games too. Everybody just they're a dome team, man. It's and they are the prime example of the people who are like, get rid of domes and football, like the Lions and their splits are the first slide on the PowerPoint for that case, right? So, and this is a huge part of it, like 77 a game now on 16 carries. And I love the 16 carries. I love that we can still rely on Dan Campbell to give his favorite workhorse the ball, despite the fact that he knows his rookie needs a lot of burn, right? And he'll still get it. But yeah, when you get the Broncos, I know they've had some numbers skewed in their run defense, been a little bit better, but still 31st in defensive DVOA, specifically against the run. I think, yeah, they're still leading the league in allowing they're at 1,620 rushing yards that they've allowed so far, which is a really nice season, and we still have 4 games. So, yeah, I'm going to continue to just take people to gash them. If you get down into that anywhere near the 10, I think Dave Montgomery's scoring.
I love that. I think that Montgomery's such a good play on his yards total, too, just because I think it's at like 65.5 or something.
Yeah, it's a little bit higher, but you can still find 65 or 67 in that area, yeah.
Yeah, it's I feel like we're in a weird spot where if you just watch the box score, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs took over last week. It's just game script. Unless Denver gets out to a 2-touchdown lead, the game script's not going that way. And he's just going to pound the ball. They're giving up well over 5 yards a carry. So no, I love that. I think that's a really, really good play there.
Yeah, I could see a long touchdown for him too. So
who you got for us, Bales?
You got a TD there, Bales?
Yeah, I'm going Bijan Robinson, anytime TD. 5 touchdowns in his last 6 games. It's obvious that his role has grown a little bit from early on. He gets the matchup against Carolina, which, if you don't know, Carolina's giving up 1.6 touchdowns per game to running backs. It's absolutely insane.
Awesome.
The big thing is that Bijan Robinson, he can run it in, he can catch it. It doesn't really matter either way. Carolina struggles both of those versions, so I have no issues with that. And you can get it like plus 130, I think it's on DraftKings. And I feel like you're just getting such a good number because the total's so low. They're not projecting many touchdowns, but it feels like if Atlanta scores, which they're going to, there's only a couple players that it's going to be. And the most likely, in my opinion, is Bijan Robinson.
Do we all owe, like, and I don't know if you've been trashing Arthur Smith as much as like Brad, myself, and a couple other guys that are, I'm sure. Yeah. Right. So he's easy to hate, but like, do we not necessarily, do we just owe him an acknowledgement that he's humbled himself enough to go, Bijan Robinson is eons better than Tyler Algier? Maybe he doesn't deserve acknowledgement for that.
Yeah. I built out the parlay
too. We knew it.
Yeah, we knew it.
Now he knows it too.
Yeah. I built out the parlay. Best odds on FanDuel. $20 to win 181 plus 906. So
cool. Okay, good.
Go over those one more time. David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, and Bijan Robinson all to score a touchdown this weekend. We're donating the money to whoever hits this. Whoever retweets. So make sure you get in there and retweet. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you smash the like button, ring the bell. It tells you when you drop a new episode, and subscribe, more importantly. And if you're listening in podcast form, always subscribe. Make sure you check out buylowsports.com. I want to give a special thank you to Bales. Thank you for joining us, Josh, as always. And I'm Brad Thomas. Take care and enjoy your sweat.